So in that case, we can go ahead and kick things off. How about we have you introduce yourself and outside of the business whatsoever, tell me a little bit about what you're into, what you like to do for fun.
Yeah, look, as the chairman of Action Coach, it gives me a bit of free time. I'm not the CEO, so I don't have to actually do the day-to-day running of the business. But I do have interests or fairly high-level interests in 8 other companies. So I do meet with my CEOs in those companies each month or each 2 weeks, depending upon the business. And as a father of 5 and husband, that keeps me pretty busy most of the rest of the time. And other than that, we go to a lot of hockey games. We like ice hockey here in Las Vegas. The Golden Knights is our team. And yeah, a lot of concerts, a lot of fun things. Eat out a lot. We're big entertainers, our family. It's my wife's from Massachusetts. I'm from Australia. So it's the Irish-Australian connection. Lots of fun. So
Absolutely. So prior to the business getting started up, making
mhm.
that happen, where were you at in life? What were you doing? What were the kind of moments leading up to wanting to start a business?
See, the funny thing is, I was in high school, so it was like my first business was started when I was a kid. So it was like, dang, how do you do that? And then went through university, obviously, because I think that that's an important learning aspect as well. But yeah, it wasn't like, I worked for a company for 100 years and got sick of it. It was just like I knew from about 13 onwards, I kind of wanted to run my own thing and do my own thing and be in business for myself. And um, yeah, that entrepreneurial flair, I think that a lot of us have it when we're young, but we dumb it down because we're told, no, you can't run your own business from the start. You've got to go and do a thing. And that's why I started my foundation, which educates young people how to be employers, not employees when they leave school or college. So I think that's an important one.
Absolutely. So this was right off the bat, kind of the very first
Hmm.
venture that you went on to at a
Well, no,
very young age.
yeah, no, Action Coach came later on. Other ventures are smaller and made a few dollars here and there. And, I started out with the newspaper delivery route and thinking that was a good little business to have. And, went on in the pizza business, beauty salons, you name it. We've sort of been involved in it at some point. Had more than 50 different enterprises. And that to me is part of what being an entrepreneur is. It's not, I don't see owning one business as an entrepreneur. I see entrepreneurs as sort of like serial. We do a bunch of them.
Definitely. So not a one-trick pony by any means.
No, look, but I am in some way in that what I'm good at is running businesses. So I'm not great at hairdressing or great at we had the beauty salon. I never did any of it. But I'm good at running the business of that business. I think that's where a lot of business people fall down is they're great at the job, but they're not great business people.
Definitely. So where did the, I guess, idea or inspiration for Action Coach come from? What was the genesis of it?
Yeah, so I was asked to speak because I don't know what it is, but when you're young and successful, people want to hear from you type thing. And so being young and successful, I was asked to go and speak. And a gentleman who's now very famous for his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, with Sharon Lechter, Robert Kiyosaki, asked me to come and speak at his business school for entrepreneurs in Hawaii. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. People get paid to travel the world and just have a chat to people. I'll do this. I think I was 20 or 21 at the time. And so it was like, I said, yeah, I'll do this. And so I started doing a lot of speaking, and people would always ask me at the end, can you consult with us? Can you help us? And I said, you know what? I don't have time to do that. I'm running my own thing. I'm doing these speaking things. But I can coach you. Maybe if you call me once a week, I can coach you through a few ideas. Now, interestingly enough, sometimes it takes business people a little while to catch on to the fact that, hey, everyone keeps asking me to help. Maybe I should start a business doing this. And so here we are now, 26, almost 27 years later in 80 something countries, coaching in Russia, China, Vietnam, 3 communist countries. Now we just opened in Greece. So yeah, we get to do a lot of fun things and teach a lot of great business owners around the world now.
Definitely. So let's jump into the first few years, kind of
Mhm.
hitting that realization that you can make a business out of it. What were the first couple of steps to truly make it a thing?
Well, first you have to define what your product or service is. And so it takes a while of when you're brand new in business. This is why franchising is so important for a lot of people, because when you're brand new, you don't realize it's going to take you 2 to 3 years just to work out what people want to buy. You know, you might think I want to sell coffee, but how do they want to buy coffee? Do they want to buy it freshly ground? Do they want to buy it in a cup already with the thing? Do they want to, how do people want to buy that product or service? And so firstly, I had to define what the product and service was. And that a big part of that was meant getting out of my head what it was I did that made me successful. So I taught a lot of seminars just to try and get it out of my head and on paper type thing, or out of my head and on, in those days, tapes and videos. You know, it's kind of fun that way. But then it turned into books. And then from there, it turned into systematic methodologies by which my coaches, who were employees in the beginning and now franchise partners that have employees around the world, are doing that. So, yeah, it takes a while just to get that, because people don't realize that to build a finished product, a business that's finished, you've actually got to build reputation, you got to build a team, you got to build systems, you got to build the products and services, you got to build all these things to create a finished product of a business. And so the first few years was really defining the product and service in such a way that it was, because you got to remember, I didn't just build a business, I built a whole industry. The business coaching industry didn't exist. So we started from scratch in the industry, not just from scratch in our business. We had to develop things, and a lot of people have copied us and followed us since, but well, that was an interesting challenge. The whole profession had to be built.
Definitely. So to me, it seems like early on, it wouldn't necessarily require a lot of initial capital to really make things happen, since you kind of have that background already and there's the desire for you to be present in these situations. But did it require any money backing investment at any point in time?
It didn't really, but I was lucky enough. My dad signed an overdraft. It was $15,000 overdraft from the Commonwealth Bank. I remember going in the bank and having my dad sign for me to do that. And that allowed us to open our first office and move out of the bedroom, the spare bedroom type thing, and the granny flat. So we had the granny flat in the spare bedroom, and it allowed us to move onto Coronation Drive in Brisbane, Milton, Queensland, Australia, 303 Coro Drive. And there was 3 of us in this massive office space. And my dad was like, "What have you done?" And don't worry, it'll be full in a year's time. And it was. We had to take another level as well. But you know, you go back to, I'm always a firm believer in business. Either your business will make a profit from the first month, or you raise capital. So it's one or the other. You don't, you know, if you've got a bootstrap and you're not making profit in the first month, then there's something wrong with your marketing. I had a debate recently with a fairly famous online educator about hustle and grind. And I think hustle and grind are the 2 stupidest words to have ever entered business in a long time, because what it does is that crazy level of hard work covers up the fact that your business has fundamental flaws, and that your pricing is wrong, or that your marketing is bad, or your sales are fundamentally flawed, or does that make sense? And it's like you work too much. And I did that for the first 2 years. I believed in hustle and grind when I was young and stupid. And I worked so dang hard, but it covered up all of the problems in my business. And therefore I ended up not changing those things for longer, because I worked so dang hard. I didn't need to change them.
For sure. So you got an office, you got a small, we'll call it a small investment from family to get the thing, you know, get the ball rolling, get it off the ground. Obviously there was the interest that you mentioned of people wanting you to speak. What did the initial actual customers of the business look like? When did you start like truly doing
all
business?
seminar? Yeah, all seminar attendees in the beginning. So, you know, I started doing, the seminar business hates me because I started the free seminar. I was the guy that made everything for free up front. And I partnered with a very large newspaper group in Australia. And the gentleman that worked there, Barry Gordon, who became a very good friend, passed away not long back. One of the greatest people I ever met in business. And, you know, Barry and I together did seminars for 288,000 business owners over a period of 2 years. And by doing that for free, obviously we sold a percentage of them, and 14% came to a weekend program, and 14 odd percent of those became one-to-one coaching clients. And so we funneled it. We were the original click funnel that was not a click. You know, we gave away the free thing up front to sell the next, to sell the next, and sell the next. And, you know, we did that whole click funnel before it existed. Now I do it online. I have a whole team of people doing that online. I don't have to worry about doing the free events anymore. And I do podcasts and stuff. It's like, instead of getting on the road, I get to, you know, take my kids to school and stuff, and then jump on a podcast with someone that's like yourself that does amazing work. Which, by the way, if anyone, this is your first time watching, subscribe. Don't just watch one time. Subscribe to this stuff. There's some amazing interviews that Graham's done.
For sure. So coming from seminars, building off of essentially no profit to maximizing profit right off the bat, right? When did employees become a part of the function of the business?
Day one. I'm a 100% believer in leverage. You know, you can use other people's money, other people's time, other people's systems, other people's, but a business owner that doesn't think of employees on day one is not thinking of a business. They're thinking of a job for themselves. And, you know, I've always said it, and I'll say it again and again, that if I work for myself, I work for a crazy person. You know, if I'm the only person in my business, then I'm not building a business, I'm building a job, and I'm the only person there. And if I go away, the business dies. You know, I want to build a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without me, because if it works without me, it makes money whether I get out of bed or not. And so it took me a while to learn how to do that, but now that's what we teach. So that's why, you know, 17 books into this thing, I'm teaching business owners how to create businesses that work without you. It doesn't mean you have to leave. It just means it can be. And the most important reason for that is, if you want to build something that's a saleable asset, because that's really where money should be made in business. You build a saleable asset. The only way it's saleable is if it is running without you. You know, sometimes you can sell it when you sell someone else a job, but rarely can you do that. Most of the time, you've actually got to sell something to an investor that can have the business run without you if you want good top dollar for what you're selling.
For sure. So you mentioned in that first office, you had that first floor, 3 employees. It was seemingly empty. You filled it in that first year, had to expand. What were we looking at, like, growth-wise over those first couple of years?
There's no percentage that you can say, because, you know, when you start from ground zero, your percentages are all crazy. But, you know, we went to 28 employees in the first 2 years. So
Definitely.
then we went to 56 over the next 2 years. Now around the world, we're thousands.
For sure.
You know, and that includes my franchise partners and their team. But, you know, I looked at it from a simple thing. You've got to scale. You got to consistently grow. And, you know, the second law of thermonuclear dynamics is pretty dang simple when you explain it. It's that the tree is either growing or dying. And same's true for your business. Your business is either growing or it's dying. So you choose which one.
Absolutely. So were there any, obviously you were growing, and you never really stopped growing.
Nope.
Would you say initially there were any big breakthroughs that really kind of, or any like big clients that you brought in that made things expand really fast?
Yeah, no, we were never about big clients. We were always lots of small business owners. We were never that one big ticket item. I think what made the growth really kick is when I went from employing everyone to franchising. When we went to when I opened across Australia, I could employ everyone. When I went to Singapore and Malaysia, it was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to open Singapore or Malaysia. There's language barriers, cultural barriers, all these things. So how do I franchise that? And I remember sitting down with one of my friends in Singapore who'd franchised a business before, and I'd already coached several franchises and owned shares in several franchises. And I thought, white collar franchising just doesn't exist, because it didn't. You know, there was maybe expense reduction analysts, and maybe Jackson Hewitt or H&R Block was doing it. H&R Block, not Jackson Hewitt. And so we had to create the white collar franchise, because how you tie up the intellectual property in a white collar scenario, you had to have it documented in certain ways. And so it took a while to do that. But the moment we went to franchising, we got to open country after country after country and find great partners to do that. And so that exploded our growth quite dramatically. And by bringing on franchises, I could recruit a caliber of person that I couldn't recruit with employee basis. You know, people that wanted to have their own business and do this stuff rather than just have a job doing it. Now we've worked out how to get the most amazing caliber in both fields. So, you know, but it took 20 odd years to learn that. It's not an overnight success. That's the old theory of it takes 20 years to be an overnight success. I'm still waiting for that overnight. So we'll see.
Definitely. So growing obviously brings in more money over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're expanding revenue, expanding the business,
Also expanding costs.
and expanding costs as well. On that note, without necessarily going into specific numbers, obviously, revenue wise, were you breaking even, cash
I know
flow
we made good
positive?
profit. We made good profit all the way through, because profit is not about how much you make; it's about how much you spend. So as long as I'm an accountant by training. You make profit. So we've never not made good profit. I've always been an insister on that fact, is that, you know, keep your costs where your costs need to be, and everything else works out just fine. You know, don't spend based on budget, spend based on actual. Is a very important thing. But, you know, these days, our franchise group does hundreds of millions worldwide. And so, but we still got to, again, manage costs and keep managing costs.
Definitely. So initially getting into it, it seemed like the risks were pretty low, as far as, you know, monetary getting into it,
Mhm.
personal investment, stuff like that. Were there any big risks along the way that you were looking at if you failed?
You know, there was one point. So the biggest risk was, and I'll tell you quick, I had business partners early on who decided they liked my money and theirs more than I did. And so they took off to Fiji with the money. And that left me $500,000 in the hole, and bills to pay, meaning bills to pay of $500,000, and the money's gone. It's like, where did that go? And, you know, despite all the legal and all of that stupid stuff with it, I still had to find a way to pay all those people. I still had to just knuckle down and make way more money than I normally did to be able to make the money to fund paying back those people. And, you know, they were hotels where we'd run seminars. There were all these people, and I had to do that. And I remember sitting down, and my dad just looked at me one point in time. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "I just don't know how I'm going to do this." And he just looked at me and goes, "Make a list, start at number one." I said, "But I don't know if I can do this." He said, "Have you made $1 million before?" "Well, yeah, Dad, I have." "So you know how to do it?" "Yes." "Do it again." "Oh, okay." You know, and it seems real simple when someone outside of your scenario, hence why coaching works. You know, when someone outside of your scenario looks at it and goes, "Well, duh." Yeah, it's like, oh my God, you know, I feel like I just had a Homer Simpson moment all of a sudden, catching on to what I teach everyone. And I'm here, I am not doing what I teach. And so I think the biggest thing of if it didn't work was more of an ego thing than anything. It wasn't a financial risk. Yes, my people would lose their job and I would lose my income. But I think the biggest thing was more the ego risk of, here I am telling everyone how to run their business, and then I failed. Come on, dude. That's just so yeah, that one was an interesting feeling.
For sure. So along the way, not a great deal of risk or necessarily danger, right? But definitely a potential bashing of the ego if things went wrong.
Yes.
On that note, would you say there were any mistakes you made along the way that you
Hundreds.
could go back and do differently?
Hundreds. Oh my God. From the time I ran a newspaper ad that we forgot to put our phone number in. Like, you know, you spend $5,000 on a newspaper ad going, this is this seminar. This is the one we're going to get it. Everyone's going to call in. And this is before websites for booking it and stuff. Like, how do you do those sort of stupid things? You know what? Every business owner is going to make mistakes, and you should make hundreds and hundreds of them. Just make sure none of them are big enough to kill the business. You know, it's like the whole bet the farm analogy. I'm not a big bet the farm guy. I'm more of a, all right, let's bet one of the cows.
Maybe a pig here and there.
Yeah. You know, a couple of chickens. Start with a couple of chickens. That's why I teach test and measure with marketing. You know, 80% of marketing fails if you consistently test very small, and Google has made that so simple today, even Facebook advertising. You can take a $10 budget on Google AdWords and test an ad Like if you're going to send an email out to your database of 10,000 people, why wouldn't you take 10 headlines, like the open lines, the subject lines, take 10 of them, put them on Google, spend $10 each. So for $100, you've worked out that, hey, this one gets more clicks than all the others. So let's use that as the subject line for our email to our 10,000 customers. You know, testing and measuring is so vital in marketing today. And it's so simple. Back in my day, holy shoot, we had to do A/B split tests with the newspaper. We had to find newspapers that would take 2 lithographs. Oh, it was stupid hard. But today it's so simple to test and be a genius at marketing.
For sure. So, made some mistakes.
Lots.
It happens. It happens.
It should.
We've all been there. Is there anything that you don't enjoy about the business?
Oh. Firing people. I don't enjoy that. In the beginning, I did because I was a young, arrogant, snot-nosed jerk-off. But, you know, in the end, I got to a point of, I don't like that, you know. But sometimes you just got to, you know. Sometimes people are not performing and they've been given all of the training and all the warnings and they just got to move on. It's better for them and it's better for you. You know, ultimately, a lot of people come back and thank me for moving them on because they've said, you know what, you're right. I wasn't doing the best job I could there. And I've had a lot of people who I've fired that later on went and learned a bunch and I've brought them back onto my team because it's like, you know, yeah, I mean, literally I have a guy start with me in a couple of days who left me a few years back. I didn't fire him, but he left to go off and pursue other things and he's coming back to work with me again. I have a lot of situations where that happens because, you know, the environment within which we create for people to work is a very entrepreneurial environment where you get a different way of them growing and learning. And with all the things we teach them, a lot of them do want to go off and try different things. So,
for sure. To completely change notes now, what would you say are the biggest perks of the position that you hold?
Travel. Travel is a huge one. I get to, because, you know, I run conferences all over the world and guess who gets to pick where the conferences are? Actually, not me, my wife. My wife gets to pick where the conferences are. But like we got one coming up in Rio because we want to do a South American trip with the kids. So we're taking the kids all through South America. We end up in Rio having a great time. You know, we just did a couple of years back, we did Africa. We took the kids through a full safari. So travel is definitely high on the list. In a few days, I'm going to Silverstone and going to race cars in Silverstone because I got to speak at an event that they happen to be racing cars. I'm like, oh, you want me to do that too? Oh, shucks. All right, I'll stay an extra half day and race cars with y'all. So, you know.
For sure.
But I set it up that way. You got to remember that. You can set your business up to give you whatever it is you want. And if you set it up the wrong way, don't, you know, change it.
Definitely. So coming up on approaching 30 years, getting up there, been doing it for a long time. Mm-hmm. You've seen the swings that the economy has gone through, big recessions. How would you say that the company has managed to weather going through those tough times?
It's a really interesting question because I started the business in the middle of a recession. So I was making money in the middle of a recession. And then when the boom time hit, I'm like, whoa, look at this. We started making money hand over fist. I'm like, this is insane. What's going on here? And I was lucky that I knew how to do in recession because a lot of people, they started their business in boom times because we've seen a lot of boom years in the last 20 years. We've seen a lot of very prosperous times. And when the market turned, like in 2008, when the market turned, I'd seen it before. I'd seen it a couple of times. So I knew exactly cut back fast, do this, get ready for, you've got the cash ready to start buying other companies and doing all this stuff and get back into shares and all that. But most people had never weathered that storm. You got to remember that the market follows the seasons. After every summer comes fall. You know, and we're having a great summer right now economically here in the States. You know, the UK has had a bit of a battering because of the whole Brexit thing. And, you know, Canada didn't have a battering from 2008 because of the oil selling to China. We see a lot of that stuff. I say two things that has allowed us to weather that storm. Number one, we shift our marketing when the market shifts. You know, when the market changes, you got to change how you sell, what you sell. You know, like if you're a commercial window cleaner and the market goes to negative, and you had a customer that you clean their windows every day, you'll probably end up only cleaning it once a week now. You know, you just got to change how that does. The second thing is we're a global company. We've built to be a global company. Now, our business in Ireland almost disappeared from '08 because 70+% of small business owners gone, like just gone, not slowed down, disappeared. And that's our customer base. When 70% of your customer base disappears, you're going to struggle. So, you know, you have to look at that. Portugal was the same, but our business in Australia, our business in China and Vietnam, our business in Canada, these markets were still strong for us. So, you know, I look at it to make sure that you're in markets more than just one, so that the economic turns of that one market don't crush your business.
For sure. So
but that's also customer bases as well. Like you have different customer bases that, yeah, this one's struggling, but this one's doing good.
definitely. So that diversification of the business is definitely something you did right along the way.
Well, we made sure that we make money in a lot of different zones. So, yeah.
For sure. And on that note, would you say there were other kind of key highlights of points where you could have done something different, but doing it that one specific way really brought you success?
Oh, dang. You know, we could have been the company that charged for those opening seminars, but by doing them for free and giving people such a valuable upfront taste of what we do, I still to this day get people that send me notes on Facebook going, I went to your seminar in Dallas Brooks Hall in Melbourne. It was a free one 20 something years ago. And I started my own business because of it. And now I've got 50 employees. And, you know, even though maybe they only ever bought a book off me, but the momentum that came from doing that and going massive with free rather than small with paid. Yeah, I might have made a couple of dollars off the small paid ones. And, you know, some of those free events, I remember I was going to Adelaide. I'd never been to Adelaide, South Australia with events. I grew up there as a kid, but I was going down there and we had the marketing plan set. And it was $20,000 worth of marketing to go to Adelaide. And I think we just started the marketing, and a friend from Adelaide called me up and said, and they were in the seminar business. They go, dude, are you doing big seminars in Adelaide? Yeah. You don't realize that doesn't work here. No one's ever made that work here. And I went straight, oh my God, what have we done? It's 20 grand. Where are we going to do with this? How's this going to work? It was the most successful events ever. Normally my 20 grand had put 1,200 people into a room to do a free seminar. I filled the room 4 times. I put over 4,000 people through for the same 20 grand because no one had ever done big events there. All of a sudden, big events, people are like, wow, look at what's coming to Adelaide. This has never been here before. So I think that, you know, I think that the go big mentality, but we tested and measured. We knew our ads worked. We knew what didn't work. So.
Absolutely. So success, failure, mistakes, it's all happened. Would you say that you personally have had to make any big sacrifices to truly make the company a reality?
You know, the thing is, in the early days, I sacrificed a lot of friendships and time and all of that sort of stuff because I just worked 24/7 basically in the early days. And my health too in the early days. I think that was a thing where, you know, I just ate whatever the heck was there. And, you know, but in my 20s, you can kind of get away with eating bad and not doing as much in your 20s. And in this day and age, in my late 40s, dang, if I didn't take care of myself, there's no way I could be as sharp as I am mentally and stuff. So, but no, I built the business. You know, I started business with a simple thought that being in business should give you more life. And if the business doesn't give you more life, and I think being Australian, I'm pretty lucky in that we get a mentality about life, that life is about lifestyle. Life is not about all work. You know, when I moved here to the States, I noticed far more fundamental thinking about work is life. Life is work. And it's like, yeah, but what about this thing called fun? You know, what about, and I think that came from we Australians, you know, When 200 years ago, the English kicked out all the fun people, us convicts created a different format of life, or a different way of life, I guess, of thinking of the way the world should be. So, that's probably the simplest way I can answer that.
Absolutely. And one of our favorite questions to ask here in these interviews, is there anything about the business, granted, like you said, you're not stuck in the day-to-day routine of it anymore, but
No,
is there anything about it that keeps you up at night or you're worried about?
no. No, I learned early on. My dad actually was a good teacher for this. He said he taught me how to leave work at work. Um, and what I did personally for me, and I still recommend every business person does this today, is before I left the office every day, I made a list of what I needed to do the next day. And by getting it down on paper, I could get it out of my head, and therefore the worry would stop, type thing for me. And then on the way home also, like on the way to work, I would always listen to books and stuff like that. On the way home, I'd always listen to music, because that would allow me to switch off of work and get back into that. Because you don't want to, I see a lot of people, they walk in the door at home and they're still in work mode, and they take an hour to 45 minutes to calm down out of work mode. Well, turn your drive into that. Turn your drive into getting out of work mode, so that when you walk in the door, you can hug your wife and kids, and or spouse and kids, and be in that mode, ready to go. The other thing I did was change when I got home. I would always go and change out of my work attire. Leaving your work attire on when you get home leaves you in that mode. So get out of that, change, get comfy. These days I don't dress up for work, so it's like, you know, I make
Absolutely.
I make them put my logo on everything, so that, you know, it's like baseball caps and t-shirts are now logo friendly. So it's like, all right, I'm in uniform.
For sure. So we've talked about the business a lot from the beginning up until kind of the present day. Let's transition towards the future of it a little bit now. What are you most excited about moving into the future?
India. New markets. You know, when we sit down and we look at the world right now, the Americas, north and south, is about 1 billion people. Africa, about 1 billion people. Europe, about 1 billion people. Asia, 4 billion. So where do I want to be focused? I want to be focused on China. I want to be focused on India. India I love because it's such a millennial generation. See, China, Japan, US, England, Australia, all aging out. The baby boom generation is sort of gone. India's baby boom generation was about 30 years ago. So their baby boom wasn't at the end of the Second World War. Their baby boom was when the hospitals and everything came online, having really great healthcare about 30 years ago. And so infant mortality went down. So their level of millennials, they're the highest percentage millennials, of maybe not the highest, but in the top. You know, more than 50% of the country is millennials. So when you see these people moving out of poverty and into middle class, and we see this on a massive scale worldwide, out of poverty into middle class. This is why we've gone back to the industrial age in countries like India and China, because every household is buying chairs and furniture, and, you know, every household is moving from having nothing to now having a phone and a TV and a car. And the volume of purchasing for that is, you know, we here in the States don't realize that the volume of people buying swimming pools in India is probably every 10 years equal to the number of swimming pools in the United States. All up. Brand new ones every 10 years. So these are some of the things that I think that we've got to take into account. And the globalization of business is both a massive challenge and a massive opportunity for business people. And, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't taking that on board, and they say, oh no, we're doing business globally. Really? Okay. What's your strategy for opening Russia? How about India? What are you doing in India? Like, oh, we don't want to open in Russia. You know, that we've heard bad things. Listen, the people of Russia are great people. They just want the same thing you and I do. They want to be able to have a good life and raise their kids and do all that stuff. And if you can help provide them with great products and services that help them with that, dang, the business entrepreneurs, I'm going to India in a few months' time to teach, and the entrepreneurs in India are so excited about learning everything I have that it's phenomenal. And I love that fact. I love it.
Absolutely. So, granted, we may have already answered this question, but I gotta ask it anyways. You're global.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling pretty comfortable and not worried about too much at this point in time, and you're still expanding, obviously.
Yep.
Would you say there are any big threats or risk factors to what the company does?
Oh yeah, coronavirus right now. Holy heck, that thing could cripple the worldwide economies. Cripple. You know, you think of all of the cruise ship companies that used to go up through Asia that are not there now, all the holiday, all the hotels that had business people coming into China that no one's going in right now. Like that could cripple our economies. Production is stopped. So there'll be companies that run out of products because that's sort of thing. So, you know, those sorts of things have massive problems that could lead to worldwide economic collapse. Massive. Now, I don't think it'll quite come to that because I believe, you know, between the scientists and the CDC and all of these people in the medical profession, we come up with great solutions for that, you know, and, you know, obviously there's the conspiracy theorists around all that stuff. So those sort of things have a possibility. From a day-to-day business perspective, you know, I used to be concerned that someone could come along that was massively capitalized that could just jump in and try and steal this whole industry. But to do that, they would have to buy my company to do it because they don't have the knowledge base. You know, I have a team that I had a bunch of my team that have been with me 20 plus years. I got a bunch that have been with me 15 years, hundreds that have been with me more than 10 years. And literally another 500 that have been with me more than 5 years. So that intellectual property base can't be replicated. You know, I have coaches on my team who have been coaching business owners for more than 20 years, and they are the senior people that coach my other team members. You can't replicate that stuff. You just can't. And I've got dozens of them at 20 years plus. And I got hundreds of them at 10, 15 year plus. So, yeah, from that perspective, not too concerned.
For sure. And on that note of people and personnel within the company, were there any key people that either initially made things happen or down the road when you got in deep that really helped you out along the way?
Look, I've had so many great people in my company. I've always had great CEOs, had great partners. And when I say partners, I was a franchise business. So everyone is our partner in the business. And, you know, we've had so many great franchise partners that have done things that I would never have perceived possible. Like they've created results. Like one of my franchise partners, he'll probably do 5 million this year in revenue. When we first started, we thought if a franchise did 120 grand a year, they were amazing. Like that was amazing to us. And now we got people doing 5 million and we're looking at them going, whoa, dude, you know, 5 years from now, someone will do 20 million. And we'll all just look and go, whoa. Nowadays, we look back at the guys doing 120 grand a year and we're, dude, you're failing. What was amazing to us in the beginning is failure today type thing. It's like, come on, get your act together or we have to kick you out. You're only doing small numbers. You know, and that's sort of, I don't know, so to answer that question, yes, every single team member that was on the team that broke new ground has been amazing help for us. You know, one of our franchise partners who broke records of speed of growth of his business, and you sit there up in Indonesia and you sit there and go, dang, Humphrey crushed it. And so many people have done the 4-minute mile since because he crushed it.
For sure. And continuing on with our talk of the future, people, expansion, is there any new tech appearing in the industry that you'd love to utilize or get your hands on for furthering the business?
Yes and no. Coaching works because it's human to human. Education can be done online, but coaching, it's very difficult. You could do coaching from like on the on Zoom calls and stuff. It's still though human to human. We're just using technology to communicate more efficiently. That said, if I was sitting in front of you and coaching you and I saw the sweat on your brow, or I could see your hand twitches, I could coach you better by seeing those tiny little hand movements than I do if I'm not seeing that stuff. From an education standpoint, we love technology. And, you know, I have my programs 30X that are, you know, 30 minutes a day with me for 30 days where I teach people about business or life or wealth. These things I love using technology for. Our coaching is more efficient because of technology. Our coaching platform allows it to be more efficient, but it probably does make it more effective. But I keep looking at AI and keep thinking, can artificial intelligence replicate what a coach does? And I'm yet to have anyone prove to me that it can. You know, it can answer. AI can be an education tool, but I doubt it can be a great coaching tool. The actual human interaction of, you know, if I was coaching you, Graham, I'm listening for the inflection in your words different to the way you've done it every month for the last 12 months that we've worked together. I'm watching for you to answer something in a way that, hang on, Graham's uncomfortable with that. Let's deal with that. Does that make sense?
For
You
sure.
know, and that's hard to do by a form of technology, but I love it from an education standpoint, not so much from a coaching standpoint.
Definitely. And I was going to poke you with the AI question and see what you thought on it, but you got there anyways.
Yeah, from an education standpoint, I think AI is great because people can ask a question and get education directly to the exact question they're asking. Yeah, I'm yet to be proven. I'm always happy to be proven wrong if it helps achieve the results, but I'm not sure I will be on this one just yet. Maybe 20 years from now, AI will be amazingly different. I don't know.
For sure.
And again, maybe, you know, the Terminator will be here if that's the case.
Maybe one day in the future, but in the distant future.
But that's the job of a chairman. See, the job of a chairman is to be the distant future person, you know, to create new programs, new products and things. And I'm in the middle of creating a bunch of new programs for our coaches and our franchise partners around the world to offer to their clients that, you know, just to keep the latest education going to them.
For sure. And I am quite confident I know the answer to this question, but as for any entrepreneur who still is in charge and in control of their business, if the opportunity arose and somebody did want to buy it, would you sell?
Yes. Business is for sale. That's what a business is. It's a for saleable item. Now, would it have to be someone that can continue my vision? Because this business is different. My commercial cleaning business, if someone can, like I just sold our property management company, right? And it was the right price. I'm not sitting there going, you know, this is my baby, this is my vision, this is my life's work. I'm just going, this is a great business. Someone's offered us the right price. Yep, done, sold. For ActionCOACH, it would be different. It'd have to be someone who can continue my vision and want to continue the work that we do and continue to make it a reality that we help business owners every day.
So it'd have to be it would have to be the prime candidate for it to happen.
Correct.
No big number coming in, anything like that.
No, not for this one.
This is the special one.
Yeah, they'd have to continue the work. Like, you know, I've had businesses in the past where they bought it and they shut it down because it was a competitor to them. And all right, that's fine by me. That's, you know, if that's what you want to do, great. You paid me the number. But that's not what this business is. This business is a bit more of a passion. You don't write, what am I up to? This one's number 17. You don't write 17 books and go on podcasts all around the world and stuff because it makes you an extra dollar. You do it because it makes someone's life different. A number of people that have read that book and just written to me notes of just saying, this is amazing. Thank you. It's changed the way I think about my business. That to me is why I do that stuff.
Absolutely.
It's kind of cool to be called a bestseller too. I mean, that's kind of cool.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. When you see the USA Today list of bestsellers, or you see Amazon's list of bestsellers and you're on it, that's kind of fun.
For sure. So to transition now to the more, we'll call it baser level of being an entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
For somebody who wants to start a business or
Uh-huh.
get into an industry, what would be your kind of key points of advice for getting something off the ground?
Dang, there's so many. Number one, go and work in that industry first. Go and get a job in that industry. If you're going to be in that industry, get a job in it and at least learn some stuff about it. Okay, don't go in blind or in cold. Um, the next one is I would prefer to buy rather than start a business. Go and find one that's doing okay, but it's run badly. Like the managers are just bad. They're not nice people. They treat their staff bad. They're not good at customer service. Go and find a business that's not performing and buy that rather than starting from scratch. Because if you buy one that's underperforming because of bad management, it doesn't take long for you to come in there and do good management, turn it around and turn it into something worthwhile type thing. That's much faster than starting from scratch and much cheaper. Sometimes people say to me, well, I don't have the money to buy it. Well, okay, read my book, Billionaire in Training. I do a masterclass every year on teaching people. It's crazy. You know what kills me, Graham? People don't get the knowledge. This is probably the biggest one I'd want to say to new entrepreneurs. Get the knowledge first. Don't invest your life savings in something that you don't know what the heck you're doing. I run a masterclass, which I think my team charges like a few grand, $5,000, whatever it is for people to come. And I teach people how to buy, build, and sell companies. Could you imagine investing 200 grand of your life savings without investing at least $5,000 in learning how to do that? That just blows my mind that people are so silly. I'll word that one down, that they wouldn't go and find out, okay, how do I buy a company? How do you do that? From a guy that's bought a bunch, let me sit down and learn from him. How do you do due diligence? How do you actually examine that? What should I be looking for? What are the rules of, these are a business I will buy and these are a business I won't buy? That's why I wrote the book, Billionaire in Training, which again, I love that book. It's changed so many people's lives. They actually understand how to get into business for yourself.
Absolutely. And for yourself personally, obviously, your books, your teachings, you've inspired a lot of people out there. But for you personally, is there any quotes or people that you actually look to for inspiration?
Oh, all the time, all the time. I mean, I'm a permanent reader. So if you get in my car, my phone will plug in, it'll play a new audio book. I'm pretty sure I'm one of Audible's best customers. But prior to that, I was just a straight reader. But I always go back to one of the earliest ones. When I was 16 years old, I won the local Rotary Youth Leadership Award. And I think I won that because I was good at debate class. And so you had to get up and present why you should win the award. And interestingly enough, two of us won. Me and my best friend, Glenn. He was the first speaker on our debate team. I was the third speaker on our debate team. The two of us won it. They normally only gave it to one person, but they couldn't decide. So they sent us away for a week-long training on how to be successful and how to be a leader. At 16 years of age, that was phenomenal. But it led me to a seminar by Jim Rohn, E. James Rohn. I was 16 years old, and Mr. Rohn said three things that day that changed the course of my life. He said, firstly, never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. And then I translate that to business. Never wish business were easier, wish that you were better. Never wish sales were easier, wish you were better at sales, that sort of thing. And he backed it up with the second one. He said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Keep working on you. And often I'm asked, what's your biggest success? And my biggest success is me. Who I've become is very important. As a businessman, I've become such a much better businessman than I ever was. Because business doesn't get easier. You got to get better at business. I ran down to Mr. Rohn after that seminar. I was in the Brisbane City Town Hall, and I got him to sign my notes. I was 16 years old. And I was lucky enough at age 31 or 32, one of those, to be one of the opening acts for Mr. Rohn, 5,000 people in Sydney. And I got to meet him at the back in the green room, and I showed him my notes from when I was 16. And he flicked through the notes, said, these are very good notes. You should call me Jim. I said, yes, Mr. Rohn. He earned that privilege of being Mr. But he said something when I ran down to him. He said, son, it's pretty simple. You want to be a success? Read a book a week for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And before we get to our final kind of catch-all wrap-up question that we like to ask, I'd like to just open the floor for any final comments and points of advice that you'd love to pass on to our audience.
You know, I think it's pretty simple. Success comes down to a very basic thing. Set goals that you are way out of your comfort zone. Set goals that are way too big, and then grow into the person that can achieve those goals. I see it said a lot of times that, and it happened to me when I was a young man, that I'd set a goal and people would tell me, you can't possibly achieve that goal. And I thought they were totally wrong, but they were right. The person I was couldn't achieve that goal. The person I was becoming was going to achieve that goal. The reason for setting the goal is to know what I have to learn and who do I have to become to achieve that. So set goals that you can't achieve, but you can grow into. And if you don't have to grow to achieve your goals, it's not really a goal. It's just a to-do list item. And that's not goal setting. That's to-dos. So my formula for that is pretty simple. If anyone wants to jump on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, I have a video on there called Dream, Goal, Learn, Plan, Act. Dreams by goals, by learning, by plans, by actions equals success. It's about 5-10 minutes. It'll teach them how to do that one.
Absolutely. And to get to that final question now, what would you say you are most grateful for in your life at this point in time?
Family, friends, people. The world works pretty simple. It's people, money, things. People come first. Money comes second. Things come third. If you mess up the bottom two, you end up looking good going nowhere. You know, you're fully in debt and you look great and you're driving the latest car, but you got no money. You know, so money has to come ahead of things. Cash in the bank is far more valuable than the latest iPhone. Money invested is far more greater. But people got to come before money, because you mess that one up, you lose relationships. You lose relationships, people don't want to do business with you. You know, I'm lucky to still have people that I've been doing business with 20, 30 years from when I first started. One of the first people I ever did business with, Stan Jordan, still a great friend of mine, done business together for many, many years. You know, I love that fact. But yeah, people, money, things. It's a pretty simple one.
For sure. Well, that's going to wrap out all of the questions we have here today. We have plowed our way through the list, and
That's a huge list we got through today.
It is a pretty big list, and we have covered pretty much, minus going into overly specific details, obviously, almost the entirety of Action Coach and what it stands for and how it's come to be such a great success. So at this point in time, all I can really say is thank you, Brad, for coming on the show and giving us all this inspiring advice to pass on to our audience, and hopefully they can share it as well.
You know what, buddy? I want to thank you for what you do, because without people who build great podcasts and do this, the information just doesn't get out there to the average citizen. And that's why, you know, as I say, if this is your first time, subscribe. Don't just listen once. Keep coming back over and over again. Go and download all the old ones and re-listen to them all, because it's important that people keep getting knowledge. And without guys like you, Graham, that wouldn't keep happening.